Thanks for joining us today on The Perfect X. My name is Sherry, and this is my co host, Leigh.
Greetings.
And today we were supposed to talk about dating questions, but Leigh over here had his whole self amped up. So
What
we
are,
are talking about friends in your dating life.
oh yeah,
Yeah, after that whole, I don't know, amped upness you had.
I was
I was
quite
going to say,
jacked.
I wanted to say panties in a bunch, but I don't think you're allowed to say that shit anymore. But that's really
Maybe
what I mean, literally, they were in a deep bunch. but, but
some shit just
uh,
rattles my cage, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I know you were so rattled. So let's jump on this. You go for it. What has you all amped up about these cock blocking stories? I mean, we should tell our listeners you were even like sending me YouTube videos of
Which
this
I know
type
you
of
didn't
shit.
watch, but it was awesome.
It's on my to do list, but I was
I'm
like, I
sure.
mean, honestly, cock blocking
I
doesn't.
can't talk. Like people send me stuff all the time, and I don't even look at it. Like if it's a picture, I'll look at it. But if it's like you got to click on something to watch something, no. So
Videos always kill me. Like if it's like it just kills me. Like why can't you just make it into a little like 5-second picture with a funny? If you can't get the point across with one sentence in a picture,
yeah,
it's too
exactly.
much.
You've lost me. Yeah. So I don't blame you because I do the same thing. People are like, "Did you watch that?" I'm like, I gotta guess if it is a laughing face or a thumbs up situation or like an angry face, and I try to do that without opening the video, and I do it all
That's
the
the
time.
worst.
I do it all the time, and I don't think no one's ever called me on it, so it seems to be panning out.
I the only person who ever calls me out on that shit is one of my girlfriends. And I'll because I always do like a thumbs up because
Me
you don't
too.
really know which way to go, right?
Yeah.
And she always says, "Well, then what did you think about it?" And I was like,
Oh,
"Fuck."
it's just it's the social like agreement that you're not going to ask me any follow up questions.
Right? Right? It's
Just
my
assume.
choice.
I got friends that will start sending me like 20 in a row, and so I sent her one of those memes about um like when you open your phone and there's like 20 messages from that one friend, and you're just like, oh my holy god, right? So I sent her that, and that seemed to slow them down.
Is she single?
No, she's married, kids, and all the rest, and she's
Oh
just
my
like
god, how does she have so much time?
she just peppers me with. I mean, it's not just me. I think she just like because her and Taryn are friends too. So I think Taryn gets like the same messages. She's like, "What the fuck is going on with her?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And
Can I
Scott,
guess who it is? I won't say the name, but
you
is it
don't
the
know her.
blonde one? Oh, I was
No,
thinking, who I was thinking was the blonde one.
it's well, she is a blonde, but not the blonde one. But yeah. So
All right.
anyway, yeah. That's
What was in this cock blocking YouTube video that you were so amped up with?
oh, it's just a funny song someone wrote years and years ago about cock blocking, and it's just
Oh,
really
okay.
funny. And it's not. It's just like if you got the one friend who's like determined to like not have like a good time for some reason, like if you're out with like a friend and they're getting hit on, there's seemingly was often one girl that was like trying to like ruin that because she wasn't maybe getting hit on or whatever. And
You know,
yeah.
okay.
So anyway, I was
Well,
just saying like it's just a tale as old as time.
well, it's so funny because I've actually never had a friend like that, but I knew a girl. I never went out with her us dating, like a single girls, not us dating, but like us as single girls. I never went out with her like that. But our other girlfriend that's mutual did go out with her like that, and she did tell me a story of her being. My friends are always been really social, so
Yeah.
I've never really had girlfriends who would like sulk in the corner. And even though like a lot of my girlfriends are married now, if a guy comes up or like a group comes up, they're just as social. But
Yeah.
this girl told me a story, and I've never experienced that, but it sounded like the most uncomfortable, awkward situation because she met a guy she really liked, and the other girl just decided to be the biggest fucking asshole to him
Yeah.
while they're
Like
meeting.
support your friends, man. Like if I've ever was out with my friends and they were linking up with somebody, or even if it was someone they knew and they were like connecting with them or whatever, you'd support them. I was like, great, awesome, yeah. Like whatever. Like I'll get my own ride home. I don't care, right? But it's
Yeah.
so funny. I remember like that quite a few times where like people would almost be like, well, if I'm not having fun, no one's having fun.
I've never experienced. I have friends who've ruined my like sort of relationships or guys I've hanging out with. I've had that, and I will tell you about that. I
Yeah,
call her
and
the
that's
Titanic.
a common
That's
thing I think too.
that that happens, and that's bad. That is bad. But I've never had even the Titanic. As much as she ruined two of like the guys I was hanging out with,
Hmm.
she out and about. She always had fun. So I can't imagine trying to talk to someone I don't know because that's already like kind of awkward, while
Yeah.
someone else is sulking and trying to make the situation even more hard.
Yeah, and it's like super common. Like there's so many jokes and memes and like funny things about it, like that song I sent and stuff that they like I've seen this before, but it also stems into like, when you're in a relationship and you've got someone that's not doesn't get along with your significant other and you're like, is that a genuine concern? Like do they know that are they concerned like that person's not right for me, or are they like more annoyed that they're losing their drinking buddy?
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go into each topic one by one because that's a really big one too. Because I've only ever had that once where it was actually an issue. Like the guy was physical with the girl, so it really wasn't for her. And that actually really ruined our friendship too. But let's go for one by one. So first one is the people who when you're out who sulk. So I mean, you were all amped up. Was that what it was? Like what was the thing that triggered you?
Well, I just remember like lots of times when we were younger, like there was always someone that would like be a total boat anchor to the whole situation because they're like, oh,
Oh,
they're not getting their own way, so they're seemingly wanting to drag everybody else down with them.
I've never heard the saying boat anchor. I love that. It makes so
Oh
much
yeah,
sense.
yeah. It's just what
It
comes to
makes
mind
sense.
because it there was several groups, in high school or maybe somewhat after high school where like there would always be someone that was I don't know like hell bent on maybe having a girls' night or something like that, and then like you run into them when you're out and everybody's kind of socializing. But there's seemingly always one that was like making a big effort to like screw it up for everybody. Like it's like we're having a girls' night. It's like, well, we just bumped into our friends and everybody's just having drinks. Like who cares? But it's like there would always be one seemingly that in my mind from some certain circumstances I remember where like they were hell bent on like making an issue of it, where everyone else was like, oh, like we just bumped into some people and we're just socializing, right? But I have
And
seen that
sinking the
multiple
ship.
times.
That's
Yeah.
like the best metaphor. I've only so I can only I'm telling you, like I've always had so and if they're not social, like I have friends that are really shy, but if someone starts talking to them, they'll talk. Like I have a couple girlfriends who are actually like very, very, very shy. But if
Yeah.
we're in a group and there's a guy, like there's two guys and they're wingman or even like my married friends, they'll just if someone talks to them, they'll talk back. They won't have a bad mood about it, or they'll just
Yeah.
be quieter
Yeah.
and we'll all sort of engage in a conversation. Maybe they're a little bit quieter. But I do know
Yeah.
that one of my actually quieter girlfriends was telling me that the mutual girl that we know, she and my girlfriend like never likes anybody and she is single. She wants to meet someone. So they go out on one year. She finally like random, like when you just kind of have like sparks across the room. She sees this guy. She wanted to talk to him. They started talking. And she said the other girl, who's usually super bubbly and social, was just pissed that she wasn't meeting anybody. And so she
Yeah.
just, as the guy walked over, instead of just being like kind of friendly and trying to engage in the conversation, because it was like now three people, so they didn't want to ignore her. They tried to include her. She said that she didn't smile. She was just being super arrogant, super rude. The guy was so uncomfortable. And
Wow.
it just totally, exactly like you said, anchored. Like she sunk that ship for her and made the
Yeah.
whole thing uncomfortable. And I just can't imagine even having the balls to do that to someone because it's just not okay. If your friend's
Yeah.
single and they want to meet people, even if it feels shitty or you feel left out or however it feels, it's not always about you. Like, what makes you think it's okay to socially act like that?
Yeah. And I don't know how those people keep getting invites out.
Oh, when I had only gone out to dinner with that girl, like kind of didn't really enjoy my time with her anyways. If that had happened
Yeah.
with me, I would never have seen that girl again. Like that would have just been it. Because it's like, why the fuck
Yeah.
do I want to go out with you if you act like that? Even if I wasn't single, I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
want to go out with you.
it just reminded me like when we were talking about it yesterday, but yeah, there's definitely like I've seen this more than one occasion, and people maybe grow out of it. I don't know, but like, yeah, I've never just if my friend bumps into someone and they're hitting it off, I've never felt the need to be like, yo, we got to get going, like da 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 da. I don't know, I just don't roll that way, but I've seen it time and time again.
I believe that even when people say like I want to be single, and you can be in a point in your life where you don't really want to be in a committed relationship, you want to be single, but everybody enjoys connecting with someone else. So if someone is connecting with someone, why would you want to take that away? Because everybody deep down wants to feel connected. So
Well, that comes
why
back
would
to
you?
the point of this podcast is like, what's your intention? Like you can't make small talk with someone else for the greater good of your friend and what they're got going on, right?
Exactly. That's true.
Like
That is true. It just shows
yeah,
how selfish you are, and why would you want someone that's selfish around you?
Yeah, like I would just want what's, like I said, if I'm out like with a friend now and I'm married and he bumps into someone at, wherever we're hanging out and they start chatting, I wouldn't just blow it all up because I wanted to get going and do whatever. I would, if they were with their friend, like you say, I'd make small talk with them, or if it was just us two and then one person, mind my own business for a minute or excuse myself, run to the bathroom or something like that. But like I would never be like, come on, let's tap my foot and carrying on, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I go out with my girlfriend a lot of times, and there's just the two of us. And one, like I don't know if this is just an LA thing. I'm not sure. Like I've only experienced it in LA. Guys go out by themselves out here. Like they go to so here, like the restaurants will have like a bar, and people that are usually like singlish, they hang around the bar area.
Yeah, that's
So
wild. I don't understand that at all. I have seen that, and I've seen it in movies and stuff too. Like I was watching a movie where the guy was just ducked into a sort of a restaurant bar after work and had a drink at the bar and then whatever. But I'm like, I'm sure it is a common thing, but I've
it's it's
never.
it's crazy. I mean, I give balls. Like I'm a really social person. I couldn't do that by myself. But there's been plenty of times where one guy will insert himself by themselves, and we just all talk. Like it'll be him, and he may like her, he may like me. We all talk. And there was one recently. I'll tell you, there's two actually funny. So one recently, he was great. He came between us, like he brought his chair and sat between us, and he was super funny. Told great stories. And then he didn't know whose number to ask, but neither one of us were interested anyways. But I mean, he was social. He talked to all three. Then a
Yeah,
week later, we went out, and this guy started. We were waiting in line to get like the two seats, and then me and her sat down. He was talking to us as we are like kind of, because what you do is you kind of like stand behind whoever's like trying to leave at the bar and trying to get the bar stools if there are bar stools. So we got two seats, and he was kind of talking to us as we are waiting for them. And then we sat down. I kind of assumed the conversation was over. And then the seat next to me opened up, and he did something really funny. He said, "What?" He like tapped me on the shoulder, started talking, and we just kind of all three were talking. And he said, "Hey, why don't you just turn?" Like, but I had my body facing my girlfriend, and I was just kind of talking to him over my shoulder.
yeah,
And he said, "Why don't you just turn your seat around so that you're facing me?" And I'm like, "And what? Completely ignore my girlfriend who I came here with?"
yeah,
He and I told him like, no, I came here with her. You came by yourself. You could come stand. Like, you don't need to sit. You're not wearing heels. You
yeah.
could stand in between us." And I
That's
told him,
funny.
he's like, "No, I don't want to stand." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not, I'm not gonna like."
Then
Like to
sayonara.
me, yeah, like to me, and it wasn't. My girlfriend's like, "No, go for a turn around." I'm like, "No, one, I'm not even that interested in him, and two, how do you have the balls to tell me to just completely ignore my girlfriend, turn my back to her, and just start talking to you? And when you're a man with no heels on who can stand between us, or you could just somehow be uncomfortable yourself and talk to us
Yeah.
in an
Well, at
uncomfortable
that
way, like."
stage, if you were interested in the guy, which you weren't, but if you were, you could be like, listen, I'm here with my friend. Maybe we can swap numbers and I'll connect with you another time or whatever, right? But the fact that you weren't interested, it's easy enough to be like, fucking see you later.
I wasn't not that interested because he was cute. He was like a lawyer. He was like not from LA. He was a little bit East Coast, so I liked him. Up until he said that, I was sort of like, oh, he's cute, like like maybe. But when
Mhm.
he did that, I thought it was so selfish to just assume something like that and make somebody else uncomfortable so you're comfortable.
Yeah.
It's just as bad as being the friend that's like, let's go. I was like, oh fuck no,
Yeah.
that was such a red
Some
flag.
stuff is like that. It just puts you right off. Like it doesn't matter if how good they are. It's like, what, that's just a weird. People
Yeah.
are funny that way though, like with their own sort of needs. Like they really don't consider, like just for example, like someone like I've been in restaurants and like say like an older lady walked in and I was like, oh, have my seat. Like always like when I see someone walking into a restaurant and this lady, as it happened, had like a walker, but you could sort of spin it around and sit on it like it was like a stool too. And so she's
My
like,
dad has one of those.
oh yeah, so she's like, oh no, it's great. I've got this here, but thanks. You know what I mean? But like, it's some people, it never occurs to them like that. I've always
No.
think it does occur to me. Maybe I've missed some cues, but yeah, like I would never be like, hey, why don't you just come over here? So like, I'm better, I'm more comfortable. I'd be like, fuck you, get out of here.
Well, the problem is they say like the older you are, if you lived on your own, you've been single for so long, you don't have your family around you. They say the more selfish you can become.
Oh, 100%.
Because and so like I'm like that. Most of the people I know in LA, we all have like no family here. We're all by ourselves. Most of us are single, kind of thing. So the people I know are so aware of it and they're very careful of it. So exactly, like I can't imagine sitting and an elder standing. Like you know what I mean? Like it just would
Yeah,
never
yeah.
happen. But when you're in relationships, what the problem with is a lot, unfortunately, a lot of us have these character, not like characteristics now. Like we're trying to see before we invest what the other person can do for me, or for you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
that's such a bad way of going into it because you're just testing the situation to see how. Like that guy was like saying, like, will this girl do what I need her to do?
Yeah, and
You
that
know,
could be
like
even be
it.
subconscious to him. Like, there's a lot of people that are manipulative and don't know it, and it's not like a conscious thing. They just want to see what they can get away with, right?
I dated a guy for a little bit that he kept like bringing stuff in the house and like kept doing like he didn't want like the dog on the couch. He didn't want this, and I was like, "This isn't your house." And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm seeing now what you'll compromise before I'm willing to move it." I was like,
Fuck
"The
off.
things you're trying to test me, like this is my apartment. I paid for the couch.
It's like,
We're
not
living
only
in
do
the."
I like my dog more than you,
I
there's a
did.
handful of sandwiches I like more than you. So you need to get the fuck out of here, right?
Well, and that was the end of it. I was like, how do you have the balls? Like, we don't even hang out for a little bit to think that already you can tell me the dog can't sit on the couch. It's like, I don't live with you. Maybe if we had
Or if it was
bought a
his
place
house or
together
something.
and
Yeah.
yeah, well, of course, I never expected my dog to go to the office couch. That's like,
No, but your
but
own
like,
place, yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's not like we got this place together. Like, you can compromise when you move in, but you testing the waters ahead of time to see what you're going to get out of it, it's just not going to happen.
Oh my god.
Not going to
There's
happen.
it takes all sorts, but like I definitely don't understand like why people would do it, just impose their crap on they impose their crap on anybody. It's wild to me. Like I don't get it.
Well, so here's another thing. Like, I had a girlfriend, and I call her the Titanic because it was always like hitting an iceberg with her. It's like when is this ship gonna sink? And so it's
Yeah.
funny that you brought up the anchor thing. She wasn't like an anchor. Like when she was out, she's one of to this day, and I don't talk to her anymore. But she's one of the funniest people I've ever met. Like she really is super fucking funny. And she kept doing these little things that the other girls I knew were telling me, like my other girlfriends. And it's funny because my other girlfriends were married, and they it was always like the four of us, and then some she'd bring other girlfriends. So it was like five or six of us, but I was like single, and then she was single, and then like sometimes there was other single girlfriends, but otherwise the other two were married, and we'd be out and about and doing stuff, and then they were always like, "Man, she says things that aren't jokes that set you up for failure." And I was like, "What?" And I never really believed it until two specific situations.
Mhm.
She was sort of hanging out with this guy, and I was sort of hanging out with this guy, and we all go out for dinner one night. And then she starts telling him, and at the time, before this, I was like dating a shit ton. Like every fucking night I was on a date, sometimes like lunch before, dinner after. Like I was just
Good
having
grief.
fun. I was like, well, I was like in LA. I wasn't planning on staying. Didn't know anybody. I was like, I can do whatever the fuck I
Hey, you sound like
want.
you're going to the fucking electric chair next week though.
I acted like it. Listen, I
Uh,
was on a work visa. I was constantly like, let me get it done by the time
oh
I
yeah.
hang
Well, I
out.
always assumed you would just get a green card that way, but I don't know.
Well, I was on a 2 year work visa, and I met her I met her actually like the first couple weeks I moved here.
Oh,
Um, and so she just kind of saw me at my prime, and you know what's really funny? She's like, we lived in the same building, and it was like all glass in the front. And she's like, I would always see like a guy with a Lamborghini come pick you up, a guy with a Ferrari, a guy with this. And she's like, I thought you were an escort. I was like, what? He's like, I'm not even putting out. I'm new here. And I like literally like was on like Tinder and I was on every dating app. I was just having fun. And so we ended up becoming friends. And like a couple years later, I had settled down because now I do have a long-term visa, and like I was like planning on being here. I was planning on moving because before I never wanted to stay in LA. I was like just 2 years in and out. And now we're like 6 years into our friendship. I have my like, life here, and I'm legally here, everything. There's no timeline. so so I was like slowing down, and I was like getting older. I was like getting close to my 30s, and I was like kind of considering being more serious. And this was the first guy that I was like really enjoying and hang out. And so we go on this date, and she starts telling him, and he's a very conservative, reserved guy. He knew these things. Like I knew that I'm not someone who hides stuff, but she starts like in detail telling him like stories that were exaggerated but funny. But
yeah.
he was like, and you could see he didn't like it. He kept changing the subject, and she just kept on going, kept on going, kept on going.
Oh no.
And then afterwards, he told me, he's like, either you don't hang out with her anymore, or you don't hang out with me. And I was like, well, because he gave me the ultimatum, I ended that situation. And I was like, fuck, that was the first iceberg, you know?
Yeah.
And then, like, a couple months later, I meet this other guy, and he like was a little bit he told me like, "Oh, like you're very social, it makes me a little bit insecure." And I was like, "Well, that's what I'm like. Like I talk to guys at the bar, I talk everywhere. It doesn't mean I'm hitting on them." And she knew this. She knew like we had this conversation and he was like, "It makes me really insecure, blah blah blah." And I told him like, "Well, we're not boyfriend and girlfriend yet. So
Mhm.
if I want to talk to somebody else, I will. But like, you know, that's what it is, but like let's hang out and let's see where it goes." So she knew there was like a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
And we go for dinner one night across the street from my old place. And him and his friends were meeting up with us afterwards. And at dinner, these guys, these really cute guys, were at like a couple tables after. And so I start talking to them and I give my number to them. And it was like me, her, and another girl. And I was like, no one say anything. They're all like, of course, my other girlfriend wouldn't.
Mhm.
We weren't in the apartment, in my apartment, for 5 minutes before she tells the guy, "Oh, yeah, Sherry gave her number to some other guy tonight." And I was like,
Yikes.
I was like, and my other girlfriend, all she said is, "I told you." She's like, "I told you this bitch has been
Wow.
trying to bring you down." I was
Yeah.
like, it wasn't, I just looked at her, I'm like, she's like, "Oh, but it's funny, it's funny." I'm like, why, how is that funny? Like, why would
Yeah.
you sabotage this situation?
Just to,
You
some
know?
people can't help themselves but to stir it up too, right?
And when I met her, also, like at one point, I was actually seeing this guy that I'm really close with, and we're still very close. And he told me, he's like, "I love everybody around you, but she doesn't have good intentions for you."
Yeah.
And he, till this day, is the only person I've known him for 10 years. He's never disliked anyone but her.
Yeah. Some
The
people
only
have
person.
good intuition with people like that. They can tell they're snaky.
But it's crazy. Like I couldn't imagine doing that to a friend. So I always just assumed she's joking or she came out of her mouth by accident or, like because I have a big mouth and sometimes I make jokes I shouldn't say. So I just always assume. But there is a point where you're like, well, how many times does it have to happen? And it's true. Like some people when they're single can't imagine someone else not being single.
Yeah, it's their own like selfish thing where they want to have their group. I mean, I had a sort of a group of friends, and um, there was one person that was like seemed to take issue with anyone else getting into a relationship in the group. Like you just want to keep the party going, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was there was some undertones of like being difficult. I think like maybe not even deliberate, but certainly like being difficult.
Well,
With
they say
go ahead.
no, no, sorry. No, no, sorry. With what you were
Well,
saying,
I was
yeah.
just basically, yeah, like there was some, you just felt this like resistance to like, a new person coming into the group as somebody's potential significant other. There would be, you could tell there was just some hesitation, right?
Well, they say it's harder, like, guys have that bachelor mentality. Like
Yeah.
this girls now being single and having fun. That's all like the newer generation. Like growing up for us, guys were bachelors and girls were supposed to rope them into these relationships and
Right.
marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that generation really had a hard time when all your friends were single. I think like guys were more likely because I don't have that many besides the Titanic people who were anchors. But I do know a lot of guys who had friends that way. And I do know in our generation, like guys hated when their friend got into a relationship and they always bitched about that girlfriend not letting them do stuff or not letting that was the norm and that was what
Yeah.
society was about.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I never got because like I always felt like, if you're dating the right person, like you would just basically do more or less what you want. Like, that person just like complements what you're doing. But I suppose a lot of people date people that, maybe don't like their friends or are difficult or whatever. And it is more of an issue, like in like a younger relationship when you're just kind of like you can't get along or like the friends don't like each other or whatever, right?
But I think like as we get older and as adults, like it's really important to make sure you're always cordial. Like you don't have to like your friend's significant other and they don't have to like you, but
Yeah.
you always need to be polite, kind, easygoing. Like I don't, and I have friends now. I have people who are married to other people and people don't like the other person's significant other and they just all say it and they like bitch about him or they bitch about her. And I just think that's a little bit nuts. Like if you have a friend and you care about your friend and obviously like your taste in men or women is not going to be the same as mine, so however whoever you decide to date, I have to accept. Like
Yeah.
I'm not the judge and jury of your future
No, and
because
like within reason, obviously, if the person like is good to them, like some of this people I know that their significant other like maybe wouldn't be my first choice for them, but I'm like they're ultimately deep down they're not a bad person and like they treat that person well. So I'm like, you know what? Like I don't have to love every single thing about that person to support their relationship, right?
Well, that's another thing. Like, I recently had a friend who had a guy like that was a little bit abusive. Not a little, he was abusive. And I just told her, like, I will always be your friend and I will support whatever it is you want to do. I can't make the choice for her to break up with him. She acted like I'm an asshole for being shocked that she was okay with it. But I just told myself, but I can't be around it. So I think when it's in those situations, like I chose to distance myself, but left the door open to her for any time she decides to walk away from that situation.
Yeah.
I'm here to help and do anything she needs. But I'm not gonna sit there for coffee while I see like a bruise on her arm and be like all chill about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
could be
crazy.
all it's nuts. But I can be all chill about like someone's boyfriend being super fucking cheap. I have a friend's boyfriend who's so fucking cheap that he even like makes them like count like the percentage of like grocery bills based on who makes what to a certain percent. Like you owe
Oh,
like
that's
this
so
much.
unhealthy, man. Oh,
Yeah, like I mean, if you're fighting over the 20 cents of a tomato, to me that's so unhealthy too.
I
But
I
that
can't even deal with that. Like I have friends that are that fucking cheap and it's just awful. And like you can't, you know, I have stand-up bits about this too, but like there's friends that you actually know, I should add, that you would have like a girlfriend and complain about the cost of gas to drive over to her house.
oh, and I get it. Like some people don't like if you don't have the finance, whatever. But like if you like you can't, it's just nuts. Like
And I was
you
like,
can't
my
break
man,
everything down
like
to the
you
last
need to
penny.
be thankful that you're getting some, like, you know what I mean? Like this girl's way better looking than you. Like, like you need to just get your ass a bus pass or something, you know what I mean? Cause like I don't understand, but some people are very entitled too, which is not a good look. But yeah, I don't get it. But the cheap's a bad look. And my one buddy who is cheap as all hell, he says being cheap is hard, but it's harder on your friends.
It's true. It's true because you're like those people can to the very last penny to tell you what you owe and what you.
It's a disease, man. Like I could be better with money, don't get me wrong, but like
Mhm.
those people on that end of the spectrum, it's like you can't they literally can't enjoy something because they think about what it costs them to use it, right?
But that's like not for me. Like I couldn't be. I for once I don't, and I think everyone's entitled to their own financial situation. I personally would never be with a man who separates our bank accounts. I don't like that. I don't. I
Yeah.
think if you're dating, like if you're one, you're a family, you're a household. Money is not important. Like
Yeah,
it's
you
you're
share,
just
right?
one. You should exactly you
I don't
share.
know
Like I
what you
don't.
find, but I definitely know couples that like keep their finances separate.
I know couples that do the same thing too, and that's their choice. They're happy to do that. That's their choice. I
It
just
seems to
that's
be
not
like
for
a
me.
point of contention though, because one person's always like, well, why do I have to pay for half of everything when you make like twice what I make?
Well, and then they're like, "You owe me $12 because I paid for whatever." And it's like, "For 12 bucks?"
Yeah.
You know?
So with the
But
dating thing, like you've been on a couple dates. What's the I assume like a guy pays for like everything on the first couple dates.
oh, before I answer, I just want to finish what I was gonna say about the other one. I was gonna say this, that the one thing though, like if I don't like that in a relationship, I don't like cheapness and I don't like a guy who is cheap. But if
Mhm.
my girlfriend decides to date that and it doesn't give me the right to bitch, complain, or say shit about it. That's what I was
Mhm.
gonna say about like at the end of the day, like that's so different than a man who's being physically abusive.
Right.
I
Yeah,
will disengage.
that's a small thing to like being cheap is like whatever, that's annoying, but it's like, you're
And
still a good person, right?
I have guy friends that have like girlfriends that I would never even be friends as a person. Like they're just so different from me. But
Yeah.
I don't say shit because and if they have problems, I try to let them see the other girl's problem. I'm not like, oh, I also think she's like that. I don't add to it. It's not my
Yeah.
place to be like, oh yeah, she is like super bitchy and she is cheap. I'm just like, oh, maybe she feels like this, or maybe her income isn't like that. So she's more stressed and so it comes off like that. It's
Right.
not your
Yeah.
place as a friend to add on to the bitching. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I do
You,
think
you,
with getting older too, like we are become a bit more empathetic and we start thinking like, I wonder why like when people blow up on me, which has happened like, in like say work, I go, huh, that was interesting. I wonder why that guy flipped out. You know what I mean? Like I find myself in my old age starting to be like, what's that about? Like this. But where in my 20s, I just drive over there and have out with them. Now I'm like, Oh, that was interesting. I wonder what that's about, right? So I think,
And
to your point, like you start thinking about maybe where these people are coming from. Like maybe they got some financial commitments. Maybe they're sending money home to family, or who knows, right?
exactly, exactly, and that's why I'm not like, "Oh my god, what the fuck, what a cheap ass." I don't say that it's not my place. My place is to support you as a friend, and supporting you as a friend is trying to be empathetic and let you see the other side of the person. People don't do stuff because there's no reason behind it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
there's
yeah,
always exactly like you said, there like, the guy's blowing up because you're like, "Oh, well, what really are you blowing up about?" It's definitely not because I cut you off. Like,
right,
like,
yeah,
let's be
yeah,
realistic. We're one car ahead. Like, this whole psychotic attitude,
yeah.
Karen,
It's true, and I think that just with getting older and more mature, you start thinking like that, like what. But again, like with friendships and relationships and stuff, you're like you pick your battles. Like the guy's cheap, or the guy doesn't know how to dress, not name any names. You let it slide. But if the guy's
I have
like
a
a
big one.
Nazi or something, you're like, okay, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, like, for instance, I'm like, I don't have real political views, but I have something I'm super against. But if I have friends that are so pro that, or I
Yeah,
have like
yeah.
friends who were like so anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine, it's none of my fucking business what you do. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and that's
not.
I
I
say with
can
me too.
only.
Like I have friends of all walks of life and all ends of it, even at work. Like there's a lot of different people, right? And we don't have to agree on everything to be friends. And that's a nice thing about just be accepting people and whatever. I find like I have all friends of all walks of life, and it's one of my good friends at work's like very religious, very traditional, this kind of thing is, and he reminds me a lot of sort of like Jordan Peterson and like Ben Shapiro, like kind of mixed together. Like he's very proper and he's very articulate, and he's nice, super nice guy. And obviously he and I are very, very different, but like we still get along great, because we
Because
just
you're
do.
just respectful. I mean,
Yeah.
I take it
Yeah.
to like my friend's girlfriend. I can't like I not that I can't. She's not my like she every time she asks us to hang out one on one, I try to kind of avoid it. But as a group, she's like, I don't know what he sees in her personally because she
Yeah.
whines a lot. She complains. She's always up his ass. She's always yelling when she wants to talk instead of talking, like she freaks out. But I've come to realize that he loves her, and it's not my place to say shit. It's not my place
Yeah.
to,
It's hard when
you
you like,
know.
and she's making an effort to be friendly with you. Obviously she picks up on some vibes
And
that like you're not her
I
number
make
one
well, I make
fan, right?
no, no, but I don't let the vibe show. I don't think it's
You
my place.
think.
I
You got
always
that you got that look on your face like, "Did I say that out loud or think it?"
I make some jokes with her, and I always tell her I'm sorry. She's like, "Is there truth behind it?" I said, "Yeah, between that one, there's a little truth, like, one joke or whatever sometimes." But she does laugh. The one thing I do like about her, she can take a joke, so
That's good.
she's good in that. But we're very different in other aspects, and like, I just always think it's my place. And whenever he complains to me about her, I actually talk her up because he's coming to me for advice, not to bash her.
Right.
As a friend, there's a very big difference between supporting and like going, like, just like you said, furthering your own agenda. Of course, I would
Yeah.
rather he date someone else,
But if they're
but
happy and whatever, and she
he loves
treats them
her.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't do anything that's so bad. She's just an annoying personality for me, but
Yeah.
he loves her, and that's not my place to express that and show it and whatever. I tease her, sure, but I tease everybody, and actually, when I my teasing comes out of love, so whatever. But I don't believe as a friend it's my place to say shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not. You have to support it. You
So how
had
many
that
free
question.
meals have you had?
I actually hate going out to eat. So, if I decide to go on a date, it's like, I don't do, I always say like it's a waste of my calories.
Right.
So, I have no problem paying for my own meals. I don't like to go out to eat in general because I eat a lot of junk food. And so I don't like to add it with my actual meal.
You
So,
just like yeah,
like,
yeah. You go out and eat like
I
a
eat
salad,
cake.
go home and crush like some
I would
case of
I would
cookies.
never go out and eat a salad. If I go out, I want to eat food. And at home, I eat like ice cream and chocolate all day long. And so I'm like, but my actual meals, because I are pretty healthy. Like, I don't put oil in it. I don't like oil. Like, my actual food is pretty healthy. But I eat junk food today. Like, I've had ice cream already today. I had one soft serve. I've had one Twix. I've had two Butterfinger, but fun sizes. So, but my actual food was like rice with no oil and like some vegan chicken. So and
God.
vegetables, you know?
That's
So I don't like the food.
I always keep meaning to bring up one time, speaking of healthy eating, like even when we were kids, I remember you, me, and Colin, because this is fine. I can say his name because he's not doing anything bad for once. And there might have been other people. For sure there was us three. I don't remember where we were. If we were at your house, maybe. And you started like dabbing all the grease off the pizza. with a napkin, and we're like,
I
"What
hate
the
oil.
fuck are you doing?" We're like, "What are you?" Like, Colin was like upset, like he was like, "What is going on here?" Right? And you're like, "Oh, it's just wasted. You don't need it. It isn't. It's just more garbage. You don't need to eat that." And we're like,
It
"What?"
it
Like,
really shocks my sister because, she's actually like, she never has, like, chocolate bars, and if
yeah,
she
yeah.
does, it's, like, one tiny gourmet piece of chocolate, and then she's like, "How do you fucking eat Twix every day and then tell me I'm unhealthy because I put olive oil in my food?" And I'm like, to me, it just grosses me out, and that's why, like, I hate eating out, so I've never gone on a date for a free meal. I know girls that do it, I know guys that do it. I actually know people that do it, but to me, I'm like, if I'm wasting calories, if I'm gonna fucking go out and eat that, and I go out all the time for drinks, and what I do is I like share food with my friends and stuff. I don't really
Yeah.
even touch it most of the time. Like
Well, if I
if it's
was
oily,
going on a date, I would assume I would be paying. You know what I mean? Like, is that the I
I have old age beliefs that men should pay the first 3 dates. Like
Yeah,
it's
which
just
I
damn.
agree. Like, it's that makes sense to me. I wouldn't. Also, there's some thought to like whoever asked the person, whoever initiated the date pays for it. Like, if say you were like, oh, let's go out, but no, I agree. Like, I think it's just like I don't know. It's just
But
I've
I
never.
also
It would
think
just
you
be
need to
weird.
be respectful as a girl. Like I think this. Like I think the guy should pay the first few dates. You don't need to take me. I never pick a place. Like I'm always like, oh, if they ask me to
Yeah, just
suggest,
something
I suggest
casual.
some
Sure.
places.
Yeah. Yeah.
I suggest high end, I suggest casual, I suggest, and I let them pick. I'm like, oh, I'm cool, whatever you decide, because I don't know their financial situation. And then I
Right.
also,
Yeah.
because I in general like to share food, I'm always like, oh, like let's like what do you want to get? Like let's get a couple like things kind of or like one or two like appies. Like I'm fine with that. I don't need
Yeah.
him to like take me to like I don't eat steak, but I wouldn't need a steak dinner. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and two drinks get me fucking wasted. So I'm happy to just have like one drink and talk and order like a small appy. I like to have a small appy because I get a little bit drunk fast. But I mean, by that I mean you could just fucking order cauliflower to the table and I'm happy. No oil.
Yeah. I feel like
Otherwise,
I don't wanna, like, be pigging out in front of, like, a date anyway, like, if like, someone I just, not I'm not that close with, I'm like,
you
you're
you know
trying to
what's
maintain a
funny?
conversation and not have, like, just food flying everywhere and whatever, right?
Well, you know what's funny is I just went on a date like a couple weeks ago, and we ordered like he wanted his meal, so I ordered just vegetables for myself. Like if the guys like insist on having like a full meal, then I'll just get like I ordered the appy vegetable platter with like some beans and vegetable mix, whatever thing, and
Yeah.
then he ordered some appy thing, and I put my food always in the middle because I like to share my food. Like I said, I'm not a big outside eater, so I always put on the table and with a share plate eat off that. And
Yeah.
he loved the food I picked, and then we had the appy together, and then I was like, oh my god, the desserts because I love fucking sweets. He didn't touch. I felt so bad because I we were talking about how much I eat dessert, and he doesn't, and then he's like, no, I'm totally craving one. Let's get one tonight. And then we ordered dessert, and I pigged out on dessert. He took one small bite, and I felt so guilty. I was like, "Oh, poor fucker is paying for it if he didn't even want it."
But, yeah,
you
I think
know?
it's expected, though. I think most guys are like, "Yeah, that's cool. If I'm gonna ask a girl out, I'm gonna expect to, pick her up, pay for this and that." Like, I don't think it's,
I
an
have one
issue.
girlfriend though that does go out for free food, and
Oh,
I
I'm
think
sure
it's the
they're
most
out there, yeah.
disgusting. And so I don't blame guys for being wary. Like if a guy asks me just for drinks, I'm cool with it. Like I don't expect him to. So I do believe that they get taken advantage of, and I think she's so shady for doing that. Like I consider like them wasting their money as much as me wasting my calories.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and I'm
I'm
sure
not
they're
trying to
out
get a
there, but
meal.
you can't go into it assuming people are like that, but I'm sure, there's outliers, but I bet you most people are pretty genuine, like, there's a lot of what most people can afford to get their own food, right? You wouldn't suffer through a
Yeah,
date
yeah,
for it,
yeah.
for the most part, right,
No. And you really like I don't like I'm Middle Eastern and I don't think most I don't know even like not Middle Eastern. I know a lot of people they don't enjoy eating with people that they don't want to sit across. You know what I mean? So none
Yeah.
of my girlfriends will go and nowadays some people are more aggressive. Like guys would just be like, do you just like on the second message, they're like, do you want to grab dinner? And 90% of the time I say no because I'm like, first I'd like to get to know you. I'm not trying to get a free meal out of you. Let me know stuff about you. Let me get to know you. Let me whatever. There's been a couple times where I'm like, fuck it, it's Friday. I'm not doing anything. I'll go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll sit there and I'm like, I wish I had talked to them and thought about it before. but, but that's
Yeah, I
my
bet.
thought. Should we summarize?
Yes, because we
Okay.
never stay on topic. I don't remember what it was, talking about cock blockers and all the rest.
Well,
But I
friends
think I mean,
in
for
your
if
dating.
try and support your friends' well-being and don't think about your own selfish BS. Like if you're gonna lose a drinking buddy, like get over it.
And also, I think also remember that your friend is not trying to date who you want them to date. They're trying to date who they feel a connection
Yeah,
with. So you need to support that person and be, understanding that just because you don't consider the person dateable, if they like them, as long as it's healthy and they're not abusive of any sort, then you should support them and understand by not bashing them, but be more empathetic towards the other person when they come to you for advice. That's really important. I think
yeah,
that's it.
exactly. Just try and keep the other person's keep their needs in mind, right? Like you said, just don't be selfish. Just think about what's good for your friend and try and support them.
Exactly. And oh my God, the most important point, don't be a fucking anchor. That was the best thing
Yes,
that you
exactly.
said.
You wet blankets out there, you know who you are.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy. You should really think about someone else's long-term future and not how you fit in their long-term future. So if you are the third wheel when they're out and
Exactly.
about and social, try to still be, talking to the person. If you're shy, just try to be polite, engage, ask them questions. I have a girlfriend who's so fucking shy and she just asks people questions. And then you ask two questions, most people like to talk, so they'll just carry on the conversation from there.
Yeah, you find something that they're interested in, you get them going. Even the shyest
Yeah,
people, right? You just find something they're passionate about and then get going. But yeah, support your friends. Don't be a wet blanket. Don't be an anchor, or
don't be
we'll
an anchor.
come
I
for you.
love that one. Believe will come. I'll be sitting on the side eating a Twix or a soft serve, watching.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
all right, so next episode is dating questions. Before that, please remember to subscribe the Perfect X on Spotify and Apple, and follow us on the Perfect underscore the letter X on Instagram.
Indeed.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you, and I will talk to you next week.
You bet. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.